very quick introduction. First is Sheila De Forest, who's serving as a fourth term on the Beloit City Council. She's worked as a teacher and social worker. She's developed a nonprofit organization serving victims of sexual assault, serving all of Rock and Greene County. Just a little bit about her. So give her a big hand.
Town of Union, I think we missed Town of Union in the Rock County part of the district. Thank you. Yes. So I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you. I am Sheila De Forest, and I am asking for your vote for representative to the State Assembly, the 45th District. And I'd like to talk more about myself. I do not see myself as a typical politician. I've spent my entire life using my experience and my skills, my education, my power to serve people and create change, not to further my own self-interest. I see this as one more step in an attempt to create more change and bring more resources to our area. I'm not a career politician. I pledged to only serve for 2 terms in the Assembly, and then I plan to come back to the community and use the knowledge and resources and relationships that I've developed at the state level and bring those back to continue to do more good. A little bit about why I think I'm uniquely qualified for this position is because I am a doer. I get things done. I know how to get things done. I've demonstrated that my entire life's work is proof of that. I have started 3 different nonprofit organizations literally from the ground up. I have lots of examples I can point to where I brought very diverse stakeholders to the table to address a problem that existed in our community and managed to get good change to come out of that. So I'm not a talker. I'm not about rhetoric. One thing that I just like to illustrate kind of as a story that I think might help you see my perspective and how I think about things. As Chuck had said, I'm a social worker. And I remember having a conversation with someone about what would make a good social worker. And they were really focused on someone that was kind and had good intentions. And I just remember being struck by that being kind, being a nice person and having good intentions is not enough. You have to have the skills, the competencies, the gumption, the abilities, the strategies to do good work, to be effective. And that's where I feel like I have and can bring that to the table. I'd like to give you 2 examples, if I may, really concrete examples of how I've used some of those skills to address issues that resulted in change. One is an example from the city of Beloit. I was on city council, and we were really concerned about the quality of our housing stock. We were having lots of rental evictions as well. And so as a city councilor, I was worried about housing stock. I was worried about tenants who were being evicted. I was worried about families that I was working with as a social worker who were living in their cars. I was worried about their children. So I was very concerned about this problem. And a lot of my colleagues were as well. And their tendency was to draw camp and kind of blame the landlords and say, oh, those evil landlords, they're just kicking people out. They're having families live in the streets and live in their cars. Don't they have any compassion? Don't they see that what they're doing is damaging? And what I did was I went and I approached the landlords. I went to the Beloit Property Managers Association and I met with them, and I spent over 2 years talking, dialoguing with them, understanding what it was like to be a landlord, the obstacles that they faced, the struggles that they were up against, the fact that they can't invest in their properties if their tenants aren't paying the rent. And I organized summits between the city and the landlords to help address some of the regulatory issues that were getting in the way. I wrote grants applications to receive rent assistance for the city. So where our city had no rent assistance money available at all, I brought in resources for that. And so now we have a strong rental assistance program so that tenants can pay their rent, which then in turn keeps them in their homes, which then in turn makes landlords happy because then they can pay their bills and take care of their properties. I also lobbied that housing rehab loans, which previously were just for owner-occupied homes, could also be available to landlords so they could qualify for those housing rehab loans. So I took a situation where it had been really easy to kind of pit us versus them and looked at how I could bring people together to really address that and create solutions instead of just complaining or saying, oh, isn't this a horrible situation? What can we do about it? Throw up our hands. Another example, Chuck had mentioned that I started a sexual assault recovery program. I started that program because of a need that came to me. I was doing social work at the time, and one of the young women I was working with who had been sexually assaulted had gone to the emergency room to get evidence collection done, and shared with me about her experience, how appalled she was by the treatment that she felt she received from the emergency room providers and from the police officers at the time. I could have said, oh yes, those evil ER nurses and police officers that aren't doing a good job, and blamed and pointed and said, oh yes, we've got a problem here. But what I did was I started meeting and talking with the people involved and trying to understand from their perspective what were the obstacles they were seeing. And it became pretty apparent to me quickly that ER nurses were way too overwhelmed to really kind of extend the compassion that they wanted to the victims. The police officers didn't have the training or know how to approach the victims, and so I, again, secured resources for training and for support, and then developed a volunteer advocacy program where I organized and mobilized over 100 volunteers who showed up in emergency rooms when victims were there to support them. So the pressure was off the nurse to do that, so that they could do that. One of the things that I'm really proud of with that program is to qualify for the funding that we needed to keep our program sustainable, to get liability insurance was the big hurdle. I had to bring very different people to the table. I had to get the DA's office, 5 different police municipalities, hospital admins, ER staff, all these people to the table to agree on memorandums of understanding. And I can assure you that was quite a feat. And it took some work, and it took some framing to help them, each of them see what would be in it for you. What are you going to get out of it? This is not just about the victim, but how is this going to help you as a police officer, help you as a hospital administrator, help you as a district attorney, staff person. So I'm really good at framing issues and bringing diverse people together to accomplish things. I'm not about encampments. I think that we've seen that this has not gotten us very far. I definitely can convince you that I will know how to work with people that are very different, have different perspectives. I'll be able to work across the aisle. I've done it already. And so I would ask that you would consider that in voting for me on August 12th. Thank you.